got my wife Hannah Banks today, and everybody know me as Yucky Banks too as well. This is Mrs. Yucky Banks. But today I invited her on the show, guys, because why? She have a degree in horticulture. She graduated from Clemson. So how long it took you to graduate from school? Like, was it hard?
Yeah, school was hard. Definitely was hard. It took me a while because I started out in landscape architecture and then changed my major after a couple of years. So I was in school for a long time.
That's good. So what made you pick to go to Clemson?
I picked Clemson probably because it was close to home.
It was close to home.
Yeah, and it was an agriculture school, so it had the type of majors that I wanted to.
That's what's up. So like, what name? Tell us one thing that you like about agriculture, like studying like earth science and soil and stuff like that. Can you tell us like what class you really like the most?
What class did I like the most? I probably liked all the different identification classes that I took. I thought it was fun to memorize and walk around and be able to tell what this is and what that is. And I love agriculture too because I'm like a fifth generation farmer. So I grew up on a farm and my husband's a farmer too. So agriculture and growing plants is just, one of my favorite things. You see all the house plants in the back. I just think they're fascinating. They're living things, you have to care for them. And they just provide so many benefits to the world with the ecosystem and just,
That's good.
so
Now, a lot of people really don't know that too is Hannah can like really walk you through a whole forest, maybe an area where you live at, and she can really point out different type of plants and stuff like that. And she can like identify so many different plants. That's what she's very great at, especially on the homestead, even for good plants or bad plants. Telling me what type of weeds that I need to get out, and they might be reproducing and stuff like that. So now we kind of made it to our third year doing it organic. She taught me the organic way of pulling out the weeds, and noticed the day when I went back to the farm, I was like, man, next year, all those weeds my wife told me to get out, those ones like won't be like regrowing next year.
Yeah.
So like she taught me that big time. So that was some great advices. But we're gonna get into it, man. So why soil is important, man. So yeah.
So soil is important mostly to gardeners because that's what you grow plants in. So soil does a lot of things for the earth as, absorbing and emitting gases. It provides habitats for animals that live in the soil, plus the microbes like bacteria and fungi, which make up most of the living organisms on the planet are microorganisms. So that's very important. Soil also absorbs, holds, releases, and alters and purifies most of the water, that we have, that we drink. So that's super important. And they also recycle nutrients to make them available for other things to use, like plants especially. And also, we build everything on soil, so it's important to know about soil when you're trying to build something. And soils filter all the water.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of, very important reasons why we need to take care of our soil. And for also gardeners to know what kind of soil they're dealing with,
Yeah.
so that they can figure out what they can grow,
Yeah.
or what they need to do to be able to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's about 6 main soil groups, and then, there's subcategories, but the most important ones are clay, sandy, silty, peaty, chalky, and loamy. And all those soils will have different pHs. They'll all have different characteristics as to how they hold water or what kind of water is available for plants to take up. So clay soils, a lot of people in the southeast deal with clay soils. They're iron rich and they're nutrient rich, which are really good to grow in, but they can get compacted and they hold a lot of water that's not readily available for the plants. So you have to amend clay soils, and tilling helps, but
Yeah,
cover
cultivate.
crops,
Yeah,
cover crops help. Also, putting animals on it
yeah, putting
and
animals on it. You can do
using the
something
manure.
called tillage radish too as well. That's what the USDA and ASAP did an interview on us about too as well. You can use that because in the wintertime, the tillage radish, it go like 2 to 3 feet deep in the ground and it breaks that soil up. So that's one good cover crop that you can use too as well. And there's a lot of people ask us this all the time. A lot of people ask, is
Is it lagging?
I do not know. I'm gonna just keep going.
Okay.
A lot of people ask us all the time, like, okay, like I got this type of clay, so if you see this right now, I want you to stop the video, go get you a pen because you'll never have to ask us again. You go ahead.
Okay. So the best way to amend your soil is by adding organic material. That's very important because that's what the plants use the most, and how the main nutrients that plants need. That's where they get them from. So you ended it.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Mhm.
Organic matter, for example, like when the leaves fall off the trees, then, if they stay there, they're going to turn into good dirt. It's going to turn into the humus layer of the soil. So that's always important. Whenever you want to start gardening, the first thing you should do is to get a soil test. You can do it yourself, or you can contact your local county extension office, and they can test your soil or send it off for you, and then tell you, what your nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus levels are, and also what your pH is. That way you can figure out what you need to add to your soil to make it good for your plants. So there's different amendments that you can use if you have acidic soil or alkaline soil. Lime will help acidic soil. So for clays, you can till up lime in the fall, and then do it again, a few weeks before you plant in the spring. And that'll help kind of break up the clumpiness and also adjust the pH. Also, you can, you know, people always rush to fertilizer, but compost is a really great way, and you can do it different ways pretty cheap. You know what I'm saying? If your neighbors are bagging up their leaves,
Yeah.
go ask them, say, hey, I'll take your leaves away for you. You know what I mean? And use that as a compost.
So you can go to restaurants too as well and get all they old stuff. Like you can drop off a bin up there and be like, hey, I just put all your food scraps in there that is not cooked, like what your chefs are using in the kitchen. You can cut it up, all the greens, and and you can leave it out there for me, and I'll come pick it up every day or every Wednesday or something. You can set up something like that, and also some of y'all can probably get some from a local chip company too to help with the composting and stuff. Like you can call up a local chip company, and they can be able to help you out with that compost too. And it's like a percentage of stuff they supposed to do for compost too, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're making a compost, you want a certain percentage of, what they call the browns, like, dead leaves, different kind of food scraps, not animal scraps or anything like that. But you can use hair, you can use dryer lint, and then you want greens, which would be like fresh grass clippings.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, pretty much the most important thing, if you're trying to add nutrients to your soil, is increasing the soil organic matter
Yeah.
and mixing it in. a lot of the different soil types.
I feel like you should let your compost too break down for at least a half a year too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an overnight process,
Yeah,
but if you, that's how you can prep for your spring gardens is by doing these things in
in
the
the
fall.
fall. Yeah,
And like we said, cover crops help a lot too, especially to
yeah.
fixate
And we're gonna
nitrogen.
get back to all of these. We got a whole lot of stuff. We're gonna talk about all the soils. We got to break down all the soil to you all too as well.
So clay soil, you need to enhance the drainage and probably add a little organic matter, and it's really good for summer crops, fruit trees, and ornamental trees. And then silty soil, it's very rich in nutrients, but it can also get compacted, which is not good for your roots. If your soil is compacted, your roots can't easily move through to find the water, so that'll cause your plant's health to suffer. But silty soil can be great as long as you have, helped it to be better draining and add more organic matter. It's good for grasses and perennials, and with adequate drainage, you can grow vegetable crops in silty soil. Peaty soil is acidic, and it's hard to. It slows down decomposition because it's really kind of just soggy.
Yeah,
If you want to think about, like a really damp forest type of soil, and it retains a lot of water. So it is rich in organic matter, which is good. You can add amendments like glacial rock dust to raise the pH in acidic soils, but it's not really good to grow any kind of brassicas, which would be like your cabbage and your collards, any legumes, which would be your beans, root crops, potatoes, uh, turnips, things like that. You're not going to want to grow that in peat soil. Um,
that's why you need to add more. Like she was just telling y'all about the organic matter, the compost and stuff. That's why you need to add in that type of soil to help it out as well.
right.
Yeah,
So chalky soil is alkaline, so you need to usually make that more acidic and balance the pH out. It's a lot of times harder and more clumpier than the other soils, and it can stunt the growth and cause yellowish leaves if you don't amend that, take care of it. So adding humus is recommended to help the water retention and
yeah,
work it out and make it able to till up and use. But it can be good for trees and shrubs and things like spinach, beets, corn, and cabbage. Loamy soil is a mix of sand, silt, and clay, and it has the ideal characteristics for gardening. Really, that's the best soil that you can use is loamy soil. It doesn't dry out too quick. It's easily cultivated, so you can till it up pretty easy. But it will require you to replenish organic matter. So it can be acidic. Vegetable crops, berry crops, all those will do well in loamy soil. But you'll still need to rotate your crops. You'll still need to maybe think about putting some livestock on 1 year on it, using mulches and adding compost, and make sure you're always adding that organic matter to the soil.
yeah. So you just really have to find out what you really trying to plant too, as well, guys. So that's why we going through all this stuff because you got to figure out: do you want to plant what berries? Do you want to plant strawberries? Do you want to plant fruit trees? Do you want to plant whatever in your area? So you got to figure out what your plant zone too, as well. Once you figure out what's your plant zone, you be able to be like, okay, this is my plant zone. Okay, I got clay soil. So you'll know how to work the clay soil, or you'll know how to do the loamy soil. You'll know how to work all these type of soils because those probably be like the two type of soils that people have is like clay or loamy type of soils. So it's like if you can figure out what grows best in your area, stick to that. And then sometimes you maybe need to just go buy the stuff that don't grow very well in your area if it get too wet or too hot or
Right.
whatever.
So, if you don't have the type of soil that's, going to be great for gardening, you might want to consider raised beds, things like that,
And
other
that's the
options.
last episode we talked about is raised beds
Raised
too,
beds, yeah.
because you can maintain it easier as far as like weeds. You can water it. You can put it on. You can do automatic water system too on the field, but it's comparing it to a field. You got to rip the soil up, and towards raised beds, all you're doing is putting soil inside of the raised bed, and we explain which kind of soil you should put in there in the raised beds too as well, because we put logs and like stuff in the bottom of ours, and then we let it decompose and break down and put soil in it. So a lot of people do it a different way, but drainage is the main thing too as well. It don't matter what type of soil that you're using. You really want to make sure you got drainage. So that's why you cultivate in between your rows every week. I mean, like every 2 weeks, and every time like rain about to come in, you want to cultivate between your rows, because like all the more weeds just gonna continue growing up, and then that when you cultivate, all you're doing is breaking up the ground. How she was talking about in the beginning, and why it's important and stuff like to know soil science, because like it's all science, because you got to break up the ground for it to get the air, the roots to get the air, and then they'll start growing much faster when the rain come through, because the those plants not fighting with like the weeds and stuff like that. So it's very important to know the routine, the root. We might have to do something on that too.
Well, I
Like
mean, it's the same thing that you need to pay attention for houseplants too.
yeah,
Certain things like succulents and cacti, they grow in the desert, so they need a certain mixture of sand.
yeah,
Instead of just like potting soil. If you put it straight in potting soil, it's not going to grow very good. Orchids need to be in an orchid bark, which is a mixture of several different things.
yeah.
So, um, soil and is the media of what plants grow in, and so it's one of the most important things. In addition to the light requirements and the water requirements, those are the three things that are going to determine whether your plant lives or dies.
So you saying we can't even live on Earth if we don't have healthy soil? That's what you saying to
Pretty
us, right?
much, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we ruined the soil, everybody would die. Everything would die because require plants. We need plants to survive. I mean, it just also helps with the water cycle, and no vegetation is going to definitely affect the water cycle. So it just be like a snowball effect, pretty much. I mean, soil is very, very important, and we need to, make sure that we're stewards of the soil and not
Into the water too,
into the
because
water too.
yeah, because like those two things bring life, for other people to live, the animals to live, the humans, for us to even breathe and everything. So it's just like a big recycle. So as long as we take care of this planet and take care of this soil, I feel like cultivate. A lot of people go against cultivating the earth and stuff like that. But I as long as you put back in the soil the right way, that's what I believe in. You know, and I feel like everybody have their own opinion, but at least we all just doing the same thing. That's what everybody have to agree on. It's like we all growing at the end of the day. As long as you growing something for bees, you growing different things for um, to help this planet out, for people to have safe place to live for the next 100,000 years. We are on the right track, but we got to get more people on the right track. Why? Because we got a low percentage of farmers out here, and we also have a low percentage of people growing their own food. So this is why we did this episode, for y'all to learn about the soil, because the soil is the most important thing. And my beautiful wife, I had to invite her on here because, like I say, she went to school to Clemson for it, and she got a nice understanding on like soil and stuff. I wish I can see on the other side, and maybe y'all are asking questions and stuff like that, but you know, um, maybe we can just look at that comments, and we'll come back to it and maybe do something off of some of y'all comments and stuff like that. Hey, did you cover anything about the soil, like telling people how they need to get a soil kit?
Yep, I did. So the soil test, like I said, you can go by your local county extension office, or you can buy one yourself, probably on Amazon. and do it yourself. That way you see what your pH levels are and your NPK levels, and then that way you can decide what you need to do to, balance out the pH or up the nutrients. So that's very important, especially if you're trying to grow food.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people to add limestone a lot. I tell people that. Why? Tell people where like clay soil really kind of come from, like clay and sandy soil. What do that mean if you like?
Well, it's just about the particle size. That's how they characterize the different types of soil, and also the mineral makeup. So clay soil is iron rich, and it makes it really dense. There's pore size. There's a lot of different characteristics. There's more than 6 types of soil, but those are the base types. And then there's a mix. They have this whole like triangle that tells you like exactly, you can have a mixture of soil. Nobody's going to have just, 100% clay soil. There's going to be kind of a mixture of things, but it's all about the organic matter, the mineral matter. That's what makes up the soil type is those things.
Yeah. So like, I'm saying like, which takes longer to look? How long is the clay soil showing that it's been underwater longer, or the sandy soil do it show signs that it was in the beach area, or
Well,
was it?
yeah, I mean, you're going to find sandy soils, you know, at coastal regions because of the water bringing up the little pieces of all the different minerals and whatnot. Peat soil is usually, old forests. That's what it is. It's old forest. Things falling down, logs are rotting. And, it just kind of depends on your location of what kind of soil you have. That's why, what we need to do here in Franklin is not what somebody in Tampa, Florida needs to do for their farm. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to get a soil test kit and figure out, exactly what kind of soil you're dealing with. And that way you can choose the right
How
amendments.
would you tell somebody to manage their soil if they ask you?
Well, like, cover crops, always introducing more organic matter, and if you want to put animals, that's how you need to manage. Crop rotation is very important too. Don't grow the same thing over and over and over again.
Can you explain that too as well? Like, what do that do growing things over?
Well, I mean, if different plants have different requirements and different plants, have different effects on the soil. So if you're growing one plant over and over and over again, then it's doing the same thing to the soil. You're not replenishing it with something else. If you look into nature, there's biodiversity. There's a whole bunch of different plants on, one little piece of land, and they all have a function, and it's all an ecosystem. So when you turn it into a monoculture of one plant in that field, and try to pull out all the weeds, it's just reducing the biodiversity, which will have an adverse effect on your soil for sure.
Great.
So,
Didn't ever see that. So I learned something
well,
new.
now you know.
Yeah, man. So that's great, man. Spring. Yeah, I feel like we covered pretty much everything.
We did.
Yeah, man. If y'all ever want to see any more content from me and my wife, or you want to see us discuss any more type of stuff like this, content, y'all make sure y'all swing on over and make sure to follow us. What's your social media account?
Hannah Moss Banks on Facebook and Hannah M Banks on Instagram.
Oh, what do you do besides like farming? Like, what else you do? Like,
Oh,
what like? Can I get in contact to you to get some land or something?
I'm a realtor, licensed North Carolina realtor. So if anybody wants to buy anything in North Carolina, you can holler at me. I've got a Facebook page, Hannah Banks Real Estate. So check me out.
That's good, man. I'm so happy. Well, I'm real happy to be married to somebody that really know the land and know the earth too as well. So it's very important, guys. Make sure your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, make sure they know the herb too as well, because they'll understand what you're doing. Because it takes a relationship to go forward with the herb and your family on the same right path. It's kind of hard to do that if other people ain't on it. So you need to make sure you got somebody with the same passion and dream that you have, and they can really understand your vision, and they can understand your goals and stuff too, because they understand about what you're doing. So like, because you gonna do some things that they might don't understand, but they understand some of the stuff. So that's what I'm basically saying. Is like, get with somebody who at least understand some of the stuff that's going on, you know, and and because it can help you out too, because they can see stuff from the outside and stuff like that. So y'all just be aware on that. And that's just a tip I wanted to give y'all. Y'all check me out, follow me too, hit that subscribe button, get them subscribers up, and share it to your friends and your family, anybody, your girlfriend, anybody, just share them. This is important information. Soil science. I'm your boy Malcolm Banks.
Hannah Banks.
Hannah Banks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm happy that you came. Maybe we can get you back on the show again, and then you can talk a little longer. You won't have to rush off the show, and we can get a 2-hour conversation in. But she a busy lady, y'all. We can't even get her to sit still, guys. So, we're going to get her back on here. But y'all hit that subscribe button. Y'all follow me, share, and come join next time. Who knows what the next episode going to be about. But y'all just need to be there, all right? One love.